CEO of JMA Solutions. JMA Solutions is an award winning management consulting firm headquartered in Washington, D.C. We serve federal government clients across program management, information technology, software development, engineering, and professional training. We're proud to be a certified service disabled veteran owned small business, small disadvantaged business, and woman owned small business. And it is in that spirit of service and empowerment that we are honored to host this event this afternoon. I also want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our distinguished panelists for sharing their time, their expertise, and their stories with us today. Your voices are exactly what this moment calls for. March is a special month. It's when we pause to honor the contributions of women throughout history and look boldly toward the future. This year's theme, Leading the Change, Women Shaping a Sustainable Future, celebrates women who are driving meaningful progress across economic, educational, and social justice movements. And it speaks directly to the work so many of us do every single day. It is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this afternoon, Liseth Velez, founder and CEO of LJV Development. Liseth built her woman veteran-owned construction management firm from the ground up beginning in 2018. She's delivered projects for federal agencies and institutions, including Wellesley College and Harvard Business School. And she was honored by the SBA as its 2023 Veteran Small Business of the Year for the state of Massachusetts. Beyond building projects, Liseth builds people. And we are so fortunate to have her leading our conversation today. Liseth, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jan. That's such a beautiful and wonderful introduction. So our next panelist is no other than Diedre Windsor, our founder of Windsor Group, LLC, a Maryland-based professional services firm supporting public and private sector organizations with program management, IT support, and workforce solutions. A retired U.S. Army major, former 82nd Airborne Division paratrooper, and former senior executive service leader in the federal government, Diedre brings more than 30 years of leadership experience. Since founding Windsor Group, she has grown the company into a multi-million-dollar enterprise while creating opportunities for hundreds of professionals. She's also passionate about advocating for leadership development, entrepreneurship, and expanding opportunities for small and minority-owned businesses. So happy to have you here. We also have Kelly Mitchell, who is the founder and principal of ImpactHR, LLC, and a respected human resources strategist with more than 25 years of experience. Kelly works with organizations to strengthen leadership, culture, and workforce practices that support both business sectors and employee well-being. Her thoughtful and strategic approach to people management has earned her numerous recognitions, including being named one of Maryland's top 100 women. Kelly is also an active leader in the professional community, serving on boards and initiatives that support ethical business practices and women's leadership. And last but not least, we have Priscilla Clarke. And Priscilla, I think we might have a little bit of a technical difficulty here. But Priscilla Clarke is the president and CEO of Clarke PR, a global premier public relations, marketing, and entertainment firm with offices in Washington, D.C. and LA, with more than 25 years of experience. She's recognized as an award-winning entrepreneur, strategist, and distinguished history maker. Though her firm, through her firm, Priscilla has led communications and media strategies for major corporations, nonprofits, cultural institutions, and global entertainment brands. Her leadership and service have earned numerous honors, including the White House President Joseph Biden Jr. Lifetime Achievement Award for Service. Wow. So exciting and just so humbling to be in a room filled with so much wisdom and just power. So let's start with you, Diedre. We're going to talk a little bit about your personal journey. So, can you each of you just share a moment in your career when you realized you were building something bigger than just your job?
So, first of all, thank you so much, Liseth. It's so wonderful being on this distinguished panel with all of you. So, just very excited to be here today. Thank you so much to Jan Adams, the incredible Jan Adams, for having all of us. So, for me, I think when I first started my business, I knew that I didn't want to work. I didn't want to work anymore, a 9 to 5 anymore. I had retired from the military, and I really wanted to create something, like create a place where people would want to go to work. And I was just doing that, and we were just moving right along. And then I think, it happened before this, but really in 2023, we won a contract that really was very broad reaching and had impact on thousands of people. And then I really realized, I said, it was one of those life-changing type contracts, but it just made me realize the impact that you can have when you're in a position and you have the ability to kind of move the way you want to move without the pressure to go one way or the other. So for me, it's been really since I've been in business, because in business you can see the impact you're having on a daily basis with your employees, with the work that you're doing. You can kind of see like how it's impacting the broader picture. But in 2023, when we had this opportunity to really provide financial assistance to thousands of farmers who had been discriminated against, it was really it was that moment that I said, you know what, this is really, just being in business has put me in this position to truly impact lives in a positive way. So thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know how you do it, the amounts of people that you get to impact on a day to day, and essentially, help the economy and help that workforce
Yeah.
wheel really, really move. So, since we're talking about impact, Kelly, why don't you go next? What was that moment in your career when you're building something that you realize, hey, this is just bigger than just a job, right? What is the purpose here?
Right. Well, thank you. And I just want to start off by saying I'm very honored to be a part of this panel. I was sharing with my team prior to this that I read everybody's bio and how impressive it was. Very, very honored to be a part of this group. My story is a little bit different. I started my firm with a business partner, and I think we were at different stages of our lives at the time when we started the business, and we started just the two of us doing everything, right? I think a lot of small business owners can relate to that. But I think the moment that I realized that, this is more than just the two of us doing a job was when what we were offering was a lot bigger than just the two of us, right? And that I came to realize that the demand was so much bigger and larger out there in terms of what we were offering to business owners and leaders to effectively manage their people and to have the right processes in place. And so I think that was kind of the trigger when we both looked at each other one day and said, we need some help, right? This is just more than a job. We need to start growing and really touching the lives of the people that we're trying to support. So
Yeah, and it's such a big responsibility, right? Because you are the end all be all in all of these. So I know, Priscilla, you're working with a lot of different organizations and probably relying on them to, either take or not take some of your advice. So when was that moment that you're like, this is definitely not just a job for me? Oh, you're muted, Priscilla.
Primarily, our business was along the lines of television production and events. So I think when we did a pivot years ago into public relations, kind of fell into it on a challenge. So when we initially got some press for people, that had not been celebrated before, and I saw the reaction of these folks, it just really warmed something in my heart. And to be able to learn an industry very quickly, execute it, and then be able to really put shine on people that had not, had the notoriety before, and see what it did to them and their spirit and their confidence. So that's when we launched our PR division after that. And then we went on to work with many, many nonprofit organizations to be able to change some of their the goals that they're doing and their initiatives, and really be able to promote it either locally, nationally, or worldwide. So that was our moment, I think, when I realized that it became more passion and purpose of being able to help other people. And that was the big pivot for us, I think. And so, we went on to do more PR and kind of scaled back on some of the other things. And, that was years ago. So now, of course, we're, still doing the same thing and with an expanded reach of clients. So it's been very rewarding work. We've done work with No Kid Hungry. We've done work with U.S. Dream Academy, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, the Chris Tucker Foundation. It just goes to Taraji's, Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation. So we went on to do very, very important work, and have enjoyed doing it and knowing that we're making a difference in the world.
Yeah, no, and I hear that from all you guys, right? Like making that difference, creating that impact. We're here talking about sustainability today. How do we tackle this sustainability, right? Because I know for us, it's always like, okay, we want to grow, we want to impact more people, but nothing just lasts forever, right? What is sustainability? So I know there's a little bit of a buzzword these days, and I'm actually going to MIT right now, and I'm getting my sustainability certificate, and I happen to, think of sustainability in so many different ways as you really start to unravel, like, what does sustainability actually mean? Like, what does that mean to us? So Priscilla, can you kick us off and just kind of tell us, like, what is this word of sustainability mean to you when it comes to building a career or even building a business in your sector?
Well, of course, it becomes from the beginning of sustainability and how you form your business, with a clear vision and making sure that you have flexibility and being able to adapt to the environment, the changes in the economy and different things. When you're starting, of course, financial, being able to have that discipline, and where you understand scaling and different things. And of course, the team is critical, and your culture and how you operate your business is very, very important. Your team, being able to maintain a team. I think a lot of us have over the years had problems with either, really being able to source a great team. And that's where HR comes in, and people that work hard and can help you build the business and are invested in it, and I'm a big proponent of mentorship, and having a strong network. I was out last night networking still, so being able to meet new people and help them support your businesses. And so those are some of the things, and and really being having confidence in how you make decisions. And that's important, because I know we second guess ourselves sometimes, and and trying not to burn out. It's like in the process of building everything, that's a big one too, because we're all, when you start your business, you're 24/7. So it's like being able to make sure that you're able to sustain yourself,
Right.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah,
are some of my thoughts on that.
Oh, I started with you first, right? Because you know, 25 years, I'm sure you've seen all of the different changes, and
Yeah.
you've seen it all. And so you're so right. The pivot and being able to flex and being able to um, be disciplined. I really like the fact that you use that word. Be disciplined in your financials, be disciplined in your scalability. And so, thank you for that. Kelly, I mean, you're in the HR world. I know that, sustainability, what does that mean to you in terms of especially in career?
Yeah, I think of the word sustainability, and the first thing that pops to my mind is commitment. I think that allows people to find their passion and be committed to that passion that kind of sets them up for long term, right? And also finding ways to become a little bit more aware and of themselves professionally, but also I think to Priscilla's point, finding others that can support you, right? And learn from, kind of finding mentors and coaches to help you continue on that path and that journey. Some of the things that, Priscilla said, the culture building, right? The team is very, very important in organizations. Those are things to me that kind of encompass the word sustainability, because I think you need to have strong focus in all of those things. But as an individual or an entrepreneur or a business leader, I think it starts with having that strong commitment to what you're doing or what you want to do, and follow through with that commitment. And along the way, and again, I go back to what Priscilla said, is learning ways to pivot, because as you guys all know, things are going to come at us and from all directions, and being able to understand and being aware to know, how do I pivot, but without losing that passion or that commitment, is how kind of the word sustainability comes to my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Diedre, what about you? What do you
Like for me, sustainability really means, growing growing my company in a way that where we can maintain. Like for us, we've been in business for almost 10 years. And I think that we were doing what we want our businesses to do, go up, right? And then we had what I call anomaly growth. I had to realize quickly that in 2023 and 2024, we had an anomaly contract that is like a once in a lifetime. It was very meaningful. But when I go and talk to a banker and talk about where we are as a company, I count that, but then I don't count it, because the reality is it was a one-off. And what you want is work as you're building your company, as you're scaling. You want to be able to first of all, I learned quickly, make sure to diversify. I realized that, like for us, we're 100%, for the 9 years we've been in business, we're 100% government. What I realized in 2025 is that is not sustainable, because what we all saw is this big thing happen. There was a government Office of Government Efficiency came in, and they slashed left and right. Businesses didn't even make it out of 2025, unfortunately. Some of them had to shut their doors immediately, just because of what was going on in the world, what was going on with the economy, and really with the new administration. And so it's just understanding too, to build a sustainable business, it's important to understand that you really can't have all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
Okay. Like for me, I had to learn that even though we were very diversified in the government, we were across, I think, 21 sub-agencies, not all at once, but throughout our time. And so I thought, oh, we're diversified. But so that was me thinking that the government was the end all be all. But 2025, if it didn't teach you anything else, it taught you that this is not the end all be all. And government employees can lose their jobs, and government contracts can end, and government agencies can get shut down. And so you have to realize that. I realized in that time, in those moments, that okay, it's time for us to diversify. Look at other areas like commercial, like state and local. So for me, sustainability is trying to build in a way that's not volatile, that where it's possible to happen without burning your people out.
Right.
Our motto is mission first, people always. So we want to make sure that we're not killing our folks, because we're trying to do too much based on our size, and understanding when do you need to hire more so that we can carry this new load that we have now. It's really understanding where you are, diversifying, and making sure that you grow. You got to grow your back office. When you're growing, when you're growing your company, you got to grow to make sure you have the proper staff to actually support that size of a company that you're growing to.
Yeah, and I always joke around. I say, if only people were assets in a balance sheet, we would be having different conversations.
Yeah.
But that's just not the case.
Yeah.
And so, all of you guys have talked a lot about pivoting and just balancing, right? All these different departments, people, clients, contracts, you name it. So I'm going to come back to you, Diedre. Like, where is that one challenge that really helped you be the leader you are today when you think about, this last 10 years or even like your whole lifetime? Like, is there a challenge that you can say,
I mean, I
this
think
really made me?
the biggest challenge that I can say, when we come into business, people give you all this advice on what you have to do to be successful, and you learn quickly that it's a both and. It's like you got to do many things to be successful, but you do come in and people say, well, you're a small business, just go find a large business to subcontract you some work. Or you're a diverse business, so go and get the work that's set aside for diverse businesses. Or they give you these things, but what they never tell you really is the best way to win a contract is to bid on a contract. And so early on, I had to, because there are many folks, I know everybody on this panel have probably heard somebody say, go and sub, go and partner, go use your set aside, but they never say, man, as a matter of fact, when I first started, because I started out 100% government, people would say, well, if it's on sam.gov, which is the system for award management, if it's on there, then it's already wired. Like, it's like saying that the only way you can do this if you go and link up. But I learned early because none of those things worked. I went to all the outreach events. I met a million people. I came from the government. I used to carry a contracting officer's warrant. It doesn't matter how many contracting officers I know. I never got any work from people that I know. So that build the relationships is who you know, all of that stuff, that didn't work for me. And so my mantra started being, it's not who you know, it's who you make yourself known to. So we started organically build within organizations, sharing our capabilities with them. And we got one chance. Like I tell people about this letter we send out that tell folks, we're 8A, blah, blah, blah. We probably send 1,000 of those letters out. We got one back, and one organization said, hey, come in. Can you come and present your capabilities to us? And we said, yes. That client ended up being, they're our third largest client, and they're our third largest client to date. Okay. And that's because we took a chance on ourselves, and we did all the other things, and we're still out networking and building relationships, because now for me, the way to move forward is through partnerships, by leveraging the things we have against maybe the size or the experience of another company. So we've been very successful at that. And so, but yeah, I just started going out there, bidding on contracts, and taking a chance, because I believe that everything can't be wired,
Right.
There are not enough people in the government right now for contracting officers and program offices to just have everything wired. So it's like sometimes they're just like, hey, can you do this work? Yes or no?
Mhm.
And if you can,
Yeah.
tell me, put it in paper, put it in writing how you're going to do it. And then, we'll look at you up against the other people who put in something,
Yeah, yeah. No, I think we forget that we're also just dealing with other human beings, and
Exactly.
it's I could imagine that you've in the military for so long, as a major, with a warrant. I'm sure people are looking at you like, yeah, you got it. It's a no-brainer.
It's
Like,
funny you say that because
yeah,
people thought that. Like when I first got
right,
out
right,
of the government, people automatically said, "Oh, you're lucky because you worked in the government," and they don't
yeah,
know. Like my proposal manager will tell you, I'm like sitting up on Saturday nights. Sometimes I'm on GSA schedule, looking at stuff, watching old
right.
episodes of Monk, and finding stuff and sending her emails. And she, some Monday morning she comes in is like, "Hey, I found these things. We bid on a lot of RFIs, requests for information,
Mhm.
sources, source. We do all the things." And we still do the networking. We still go
Yeah.
out and network and give our cards to folks. But what's been most successful for me has not been where some of my friends are very heavy into the capture process. We've not done a lot of that. We've done more of finding work that we believe we can do a good job on and
Mhm.
network.
Right, right. And just being resilient and never giving up. So I
Right.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Kelly, can
Yeah.
you share a challenge that really shaped who you are today?
Yeah, I'm going to go back years, and I guess kind of the earlier years of my career when I was in corporate HR. And one of the things that challenged me was my confidence level, in leading an HR team, HR department. And one situation that just comes to mind is being in the conference room or a boardroom, and I was sitting there, the only female actually in this boardroom, with all senior VPs, executives of the organization, and not agreeing with what was being said in that conversation, and feeling intimidated, or maybe, my voice doesn't really matter, my opinion doesn't really matter. But that was the moment that I kind of found my backbone, if you will, and kind of found my courage to share my thoughts and to share why I wasn't in agreement with what their thoughts were. So very challenging moment, but I think it kind of turned the corner for me to say I need to be confident if I wanted to be sustainable in my career, right, in my profession.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's one. And I think from a business perspective, since this year will be our 20th year for ImpactHR, and I think early on in the beginning was also learning that I can't be all, know all, do it all, right? And being able to be comfortable with letting go of some
Yeah.
things and trusting others to know that they would do it just as well as I would do it, right? So that certainly has developed some of my leadership skills, right? That I think that I still definitely need to further develop and continue to develop. But I think that those were some of the challenges that's kind of brought me to where I am today, and it makes me a little bit more aware of those things as well. Kind of, learn from the past, learn from your mistakes, and then grow from there.
Yeah, well, thank you for being honest with that, because I'm always like, oh, how do you release this control and let others, you
It's
know,
hard. It's
yeah,
hard.
Yeah.
yeah. Priscilla, why don't you go next? And after this, I'm gonna jump around questions. So I know we have a bunch of questions but I'm just gonna pick and choose. But if you do want to just share,
Yes.
something that maybe I haven't asked, please do so. So can you
So,
share a challenge with us that this has really shaped you as a leader?
so I will say, and piggybacking off of what Kelly said early on, it was intimidation, confidence, being fearful of, am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right move? And second guessing myself and not feeling worthy, right? Like initially being in rooms with important people. So once I got over that, and then I realized I do belong here. I was put here because I belong here. And I'm, just as smart as everybody else, and I can do this. So when, and that was early on, when you get past that and you realize that, and have the confidence to be able to move your company forward, do the things you dreamed of or do the things you plan to do and not let things get in your way or get out of your own head. That was the first challenge. But then what moved on once the business was established, I'll just give you three examples. 9/11, when the banking industry failed, COVID, and now, as Diedre was saying, the government shut down and all the things that the contracts went away or people canceled and all that. So those were all challenges where we had to either move and pivot and figure out how to keep our business going and not fold, were challenging moments that we've been blessed to overcome. And because at one point when the housing and the banking industry, we literally lost every client we had within 6 months, so, and it was our biggest year at that point. And so that was devastating to us. Not 9/11, nobody paid their bills because they didn't know what was going to happen. So clients weren't paying, even though you had these great contracts, nobody wanted to pay.
Wow.
And COVID, we know what happened. It's like it was challenging for everybody.
Right.
So, but it was like being able to sustain through those challenges and be able to flourish afterwards. And even now with the government shutdown, we've been impacted quite a bit with that. I'm just using a blanket and saying government shutdown, but we know what I'm saying, overall, all the different things that have happened with the different agencies and everything. And so, yeah, those were challenges. And it's just being strong. And it really does go back to being fearless and confident and sometimes having to pivot what you're doing in your business for what the new wave is. I'll just use AI, for instance. Like if you don't incorporate AI in some way, you're going to kind of be left behind or not be competitive enough to be able to get the new contracts or, do the new business. So.
Yeah. And on that same kind of thread, because you mentioned confidence. And so what would you say, what is the role of confidence when it comes to, sustainability, and how do we make more of that, right? Because I think we can all share a moment in time where you did get that like imposter syndrome and you didn't feel like you're adequate or, oh, I should have that answer. And Kelly, thank you for mentioning like, just knowing that you can just ask somebody else, right? And not being the end all be all. So Priscilla, how do you make more of this secret sauce of confidence over time?
It's so funny because I saw something online that Barack Obama had.
Oh my God. I was just thinking, listen, I literally in my head was thinking about that. So please say that, because that honestly, everybody should watch that video. Please,
Yeah.
Priscilla, go on and it'll change your life. But go ahead.
It will change your life because he even says, you go in these rooms with all these important people and you're so intimidated. And it's like at the end of the day, you realize when they start talking, they're not that smart. They're not smarter than you, right? You like can, I'll use this for instance. I actually was invited to speak at a global conference a couple of years ago, and it's like all these world leaders. I was terrified because I had not spoke on a global platform. I think it was in Dubai. And I'm like, oh my God, this little girl from Washington, D.C. out here with all these global leaders, presidents of companies and stuff. So, and what was so interesting, I over prepared but intimidated the whole time. And then when I finished, the organizer of the global conference came to me and said, oh my God, like you were the best speaker. And I was like, what? So it's those things. It's like that self-doubt and not being fearless. And one of the things I tell young people all the time now is like, you deserve to be in the room. Don't ever feel because you're not as educated or you're not as smart, you're not as wealthy, you deserve to be in the room. If you were put there, you deserve to be in the room. And you really deserve to be in any room you want to be in. And you just have to believe in yourself. That's it. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on that if I can.
I was actually gonna go.
Okay.
So please do. And while you're answering it, could you just also? I know you talked about barriers that are still present, and you being in HR, is there is there some words of wisdom that you can share with us on how to overcome that so that we can have long-term sustainable careers?
Yeah, I was going to actually lead into that part of the conversation, actually, because everything Priscilla said, I agree with 100%. But I think to build your own confidence level, at least for me, what was true was accepting feedback, right? And knowing to accept the good and the bad, because it allows you to become more aware of what are some of the areas that you need to further develop to build that confidence level, right? Priscilla mentioned that the person came up and said, you are the best speaker. That's the type of feedback that we do need to hear, right, to build on that confidence level. But I also think that it's also important to hear maybe why some things didn't go as well. And so you kind of learn from that. And so I do think that's part of that confidence building. I also think, easier said than done, but I think most of us need to find that uncomfortable zone every day and try to push ourselves outside of that comfort zone a little bit, which helps you kind of further develop your confidence level, but also trying to be really honest with yourself about kind of what you're good at or passionate about, want to be committed to, right? And I think it was you that you mentioned it about the imposter syndrome, right? I think that does kind of creep in for all of us, but I do think that it allows us to kind of step back and say, okay, no, that is not what I'm committed to. That is not what I'm passionate about. That is not what I'm really good at. And so it kind of takes you away from, that confidence in yourself. So thanks for letting me get back on Priscilla on that.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where you have to just do these power poses and go in and just do it regardless. I with AI, I play around with it a lot, and I'm like, fake it till you make it. Just keep on prompting it. And so, Diedre, like, what are some qualities that you see that women bring to organizations that do create a more sustainable work?
Yeah, I think women,
right?
Yeah, I think women have high IQ, or is it EQ, emotional intelligence,
yeah.
and I think years ago that we have high IQ also, but I think years ago that used to be seen as a oh yeah, women are too soft or they're too emotional or whatever. But I really do think that women just understand the human dynamic, the people dynamic a little more. I wanted to say something to the confidence thing. We have to be our own biggest supporter and not our own biggest doubter. I think some of us, we shoot ourselves in the foot. I remember back when I worked for the government and I would be doing training with supervisors, and I would ask the supervisors, like, how many people didn't get a job because in their workplace because they didn't apply for the job because maybe a supervisor said you're not going to get the job, or somebody, and like half of the room raised their hand, and I thought that was odd. I said, don't let other people count you out. Don't let someone else count you out. You know what you can do. And I always say, understand who you are and understand what that means when you walk into the room. I know when I walk into the room, I am a Black woman, but I know that I'm a powerful Black woman, and I know what I'm capable of. And it doesn't matter if they have their own preconceived notions when I come in. I know that when I leave, that their perception is going to be different. And some of them it may not, and I'm okay with that. But I know for me, I think back to when I worked at the Department of Education. I like to use this as an example because this is what I'm talking about. When we walk in a room, I say understand who you are, what it means, but also don't wear that as a chip. But when I worked at the Department of Ed, I worked for Arnie Duncan. So, and I use this as an example because I said, I know when I walk in a room with an Arnie Duncan is a 6'8" white man who worked directly for the president at the time. So I know that I walk in, I'm here when I walk in a room and Arnie's here. But I also know that it can go like this because after a while, people get past the facade. And I think most people, by and large, they just really want to know, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to help me professionally? How are you going to help me personally? What are you doing to make my life better? And at a point, it doesn't matter what you look like. They just want to know, how is Priscilla going to impact my life? How is Kelly going to impact my life? How is Liseth going to impact my life? And then it doesn't matter. And don't get me wrong, some people have biases that they will never get over. You can't control that. So you don't need to spend your time worrying about that. You just need to believe in yourself and believe in your own abilities. And somebody said it earlier, and understand what you do great and what you don't do great. You know, I'm a very tactical person, and I'm okay with that. My graphics guy laughs. He and the team, when they're doing write-ups for me online, if they put anything that says innovative in a bio or anything, I would take that word out. We're not, like, I'm not doing anything innovative. Don't get me wrong. My notes pages in my phone is great ideas, but we're not innovating. We create jobs with the hopes of helping people build their own legacies for their families. And sometimes we get to do really great work, like the Discrimination Financial Assistance Program, where we gave $2 billion to farmers and ranchers who've been discriminated against. So it is, you know, we do understand what you do, understand what you don't do, and operate with that knowledge.
Right, but you are doing it with an innovative way, and
Yeah.
you are making it happen, because I don't think there's a lot of people that we can speak to that have had this impact. So I'm actually going to jump forward quite literally and talk a little bit about what we see looking forward, because you guys are so great at what you do that a lot of these questions and have already been addressed in terms of just mentorship, in terms of career and cultivating for others. So what kind of changes would you like to see in the workplace over the next decade, so that we can better support the women that are coming after us? And Kelly, I'm gonna start with you there. Like, what do you, if you were queen for a day, what do you wish to see?
Wow, a lot of stuff I wish to see if I was.
So I'm starting with you.
Yeah, for sure. I think from a business perspective, right, I would love to see more organizations embrace having more programs that supports mentorship, professional development, but more importantly, the idea around the differences between women professionals versus their counterparts, right, male professionals, and understanding what those differences are, so they can start developing programs that support the women professionals in the workplace. I think now, especially with a lot of the workforce demographics the way they are, women tend to be the primary caregiver. And it's not just for their children at this point, right? It's also their aging parents. And so kind of they're the ones, I think, majority of the time, kind of sandwiched in between the generations. And then they now need to balance work, right? And especially if they're in a senior leadership role and all those responsibilities of the people underneath them. So the differences are different. I mean, they exist, right, between the males and women in the workplace. So, if I could just have a magic wand and say, okay, every organization out there are going to have X programs to support, more women and their professional development and their career advancement, it would be to identify what their needs are. Where are they struggling? How do you help them balance that a little bit better? And then establish some developmental plans for them to get them there, and not make them feel like they're just kind of on this island by themselves, right? Trying to figure it all out on their own.
Right.
So, yeah,
and embracing those differences. Embracing
exactly. So that would be my wish as a queen.
Yeah. And Diedre, what do you say? How would organizations create these leadership pipelines, that truly support us? Because we are different. Like, Kelly's pointing out, I just mentioned about, me having twins not too long ago. You are juggling so many things as a woman, whether it's, your career, family, how do we, as leaders, create these pipelines, and as future entrepreneurs that are building out their business models, how do they make sure that we're part of that conversation?
Well, I see two things. One of the things, it's funny you mentioned your twins. Congratulations. I think one of them is flexibility, like getting back. I feel like we're going backwards as a nation. I think we went through the entire pandemic everybody worked from home, people were productive, and we have moved right back to where we were before. It's like we went back even further. And so it's, to me, it's like the schools. When the schools were closed, my daughter's in college now, but I just thought it was interesting when the schools were closed that the kids were just, when for snow, they were at home. I'm like, didn't we not learn anything during the pandemic? So that's the one thing, just going back to a more flexible, where get the work done. You got 40 hours in a week to do it, get it done on the 40 hours. I'm not advocating for just everybody doing whatever, whenever, having some core hours and things like that. But also you said leadership pipeline. And I think that really having the way we promote leaders, that's not sustainable. Like, we are still promoting people to supervisor based on technical ability, and the person could really have no aspirations to be an actual supervisor, but we make that a gate to get to the next level. And we really need to have those tracks that are technical and then leadership. And then we need to train people in leadership. Some people have it and they just need some of that formal training, but we don't do that at all, which is why we struggle, I think, so much as a workforce, period. I mean, people used to say, oh, in the military, they have great leaders. No, we don't. People do what you tell them to do in the military because they told you to do it, because it's a hierarchy. And why military people struggle when they come out is because in the civilian sector, civilians, they don't care. They're like, how you spell colonel with a C or K? They don't care about your rank. So sometimes these people struggle because you lead by power in the military. And that's not really sustainable. Leading by, to me, I always say, leading by influence is way more sustainable, because people only going to, for so long, do what you tell them to do because you told them to do it. In the civilian sector, they're like, well, let me know how that works out. Like, because people can actually not do the work. The military doesn't work that way. But just learning, when you lead by influence, that means you've built a relationship with me as your employee. We've developed some mutual respect. And generally, if you come to me, Priscilla, and say, Diedre, you didn't do your best work today, I'm not going to freak out, because I've built the relationship of mutual respect. So now Priscilla has some level of influence in my mind. And so I'm going to say, you know what, Priscilla, you're right. And I'm probably still going to be teed off, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to want to get that thing right, because I have respect for Priscilla. But she built that over time. See, that leading by power, which is what we do when we take people just from a technical position, they want to get promoted. So you're like, okay, I'm going to promote you because you're the technician, but I'm going to put 15 people under you. And now I need you to understand these 15 personalities to get them to get this work done. And it just doesn't work like that, So
and it's going to be interesting how,
and
it's going to be interesting how AI really disrupts that, right? So, last but not least, Priscilla, how do you, you mentioned AI a little bit earlier. If you can also maybe talk a little bit about just the importance of financial knowledge and business literacy. But young women that are entering the workforce, what advice would you give to them in terms of how they build their careers and the things that they focus and care about as they're entering?
So I'm gonna just make a comment on what they both, Kelly and Diedre, just said, and just what I'd like to see in that part is with, of course, the development and all of the things, and with all of the responsibilities that women have, right, in the workplace, whether they're in the C-suite or whether they're entering the industry, mental health awareness, right? Like, everybody got something. Everybody has something going on, whatever that facade is you see in the work, in the job. When they go home, you don't know if it's a death in the family. You don't know if they're struggling with a child with needs. I mean, but everyone's got something. So I think seeing it as more of a regular thing to have mental health support in the workplace, I think would be helpful to men and women. Because like I said, everyone's going through struggles, through something. And I think it would just help everyone be better at whatever job they're doing if they have that level of support, in addition to the development piece. So that's it.
Right,
So
right,
100%
right.
agree.
No, and
and
it's so much of it does start with ourselves, right?
yeah,
So I know that we have great viewers here, and we have some questions that have come up. If we can go into the Q&A, that would be fantastic.
okay.
Let's see. So I'm just gonna shoot some of the questions we have here. Um, there was one that I saw from Jasmine W. God, maybe. What is your advice to raise more capital when you are starting your business? I know this is like a hot topic, so I wanted to start with this. You guys can just shoot off whoever wants to
I
start.
want to give a piece of advice someone gave to me. It was probably 6 years in, and I honestly wish I knew it day one because it changed the way I thought about it. But a lady said to me, Gina Merritt, she said, never forget that your best source of capital is your revenue. And so if I had been thinking that way day one, I probably would have been just stacking money, like to the extent I could. I make $100, let me save 10, put it over here. Because if I had been doing that day one, probably when I got my first employee, it would have helped me because, there wasn't one employee, doesn't cost a lot. But it probably would have gotten me past a payroll or two, So just understanding that as a practice that your best source of capital is your revenue, but also start building the relationships at the bank early and always understand who you're talking to at the bank. Because for years I was talking to the small business banker when I needed to be talking to a commercial banker. Now, depending on where you are in your business, you may still be at the point where it's like you need a small business banker, but understand when it's time to move over to the commercial banker, because it's a different conversation. But yeah, just remember your best source of capital is your revenue.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Do you guys have anything to add there?
Yeah, I
I'll
was
add. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Priscilla. I was just going to add that, recently I was at an event where they talked about this for small business owners and small businesses. And one of the things that I walked away from that and that I learned that there are so many different resources available to small businesses to raise more capital that I don't think most of us know about, right? So I think if I had an advice just from what I learned from that event is to do the research, right? Because there are a lot of programs and a lot of funds out there, money set aside for small businesses that are looking for capital. You just got to find them and you just got to make your case for why the money should come to you. But there are so many different resources out there for small businesses.
And I'll just add to that. Goldman Sachs GSK 10,000 Small Businesses Program is a great program. I actually went through the national program, and they just, even as an experienced business owner, they give you so many tactics, that apply to what's happening now in the economy. And they give small businesses support throughout for years. So I would look into that. They have different types of cohorts, some basically for women, some with just across the board, and some with minority groups. So I think they're a great resource. And when I started out my first business, not this one, I remember I felt that being a woman was a disadvantage when I was going in for a loan. And I went to literally I can't remember how many banks, and everyone turned me down. And I had all the things they say you need. I had 400,000 in collateral. I had perfect credit. I had all the stuff. I had a great business plan, and everyone turned me down. And I was just floored. I mean, one time I walked into one bank and, I set the appointment and everything. And then they just kind of looked at me and they were like, we can't help you. I'm like, but I have an appointment. You won't even let me talk. Like, I haven't even said, here's my plan. So, so I was very discouraged. And then when I went to finally the last bank, I spoke to the vice president, happened to be there, and we're talking. And, we had some similar interest in the Redskins at the time. And so, when he was talking, he was like, well, tell me what you're trying to do. And, so anyway, I got the small loan at that point. It was only $40,000, right? Which is, I needed 200, but, I got 40, which I said, okay, great. This helps me start. So I did. And, it became very, very successful. But that was a challenge. What I would say about the whole banking piece is, make sure the bank that you're going to and what their initiatives are and what they're trying to accomplish in small banking, and don't give up. Like after all those banks, I want to say it was 15, but I'm not sure with the number. It was just endless no's. But yeah.
I want to add one last. If I could add one last thing,
Please.
there's a young lady. Her name is I had to look her up, Hyacinth Tucker. And so one of the things I found, I met her through Institute for Institutional Learning. Anyway, she was pitching, and what I found, I follow her now, but I've seen her pitch and win pitch contests, probably 10 or 15. And so to me, those are avenues I didn't know about, but I'm always intrigued when I see her on LinkedIn of all the different, it's like you said, Priscilla said, you got to do the research. I think Priscilla said, do the research, because I'm intrigued by it, because that's not an avenue I ever tried when I started out, because I didn't even know it. But now I see her doing it and I see that it works. So I would offer that up also. Look out there for organizations that are doing pitch contests for small businesses, because they're given, like, sometimes it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 100. It's real money that you can put in your coffer to take care of what you need to take care of as a small business owner. Just wanted to throw that in there.
And what's that name again?
Her name is she owns a laundry service business, Hyacinth Tucker. But yeah, she's an Army veteran, and I work with the Institute for Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership. They had a capital catalyst program a couple of years ago, and we supported it. And I said, if we support it, we need to make sure some of the people who pitch are veterans. And she was the first person that ended up benefiting, but I've followed her since then. And I'm always just, I'm impressed at how she's able to do that. So really, she's able to make strides in her business through that avenue. So I think it's pretty incredible.
Okay. And I think I'm going to start having some technical difficulties, because things are getting frozen for me on my end. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. I think LaDawn just came back in also. Yeah.
Well, Liseth, if you're having some technical difficulties, feel free to go off mic and I'll just grab the next question. So the next question, and the question we'll close it out with, is this question. And this came through a private message. How important is estate planning as a business owner or for individuals as well? So if each of you can give us a quick insight on that, we'd appreciate it.
Well, I can start because I just finished my estate planning. I didn't really know how important it is for business owners until I kind of went down this path, and primarily started with the fact that my husband and I needed to develop a will. But when we were starting to have conversations and doing research, learned that as a business owner, or even as individuals, that estate planning was a better avenue to go down, because especially as business owners, because you need to build in aspects of the business when things should happen upon your disability or your death or what have you. And more importantly for us is how estate planning protects all of our assets, including the business, and protects our children, right? Or the family members that we're trying to protect through having wills and estate planning. So how important is it? I think I've learned that it's very, very important.
Yeah, Kelly, I would say the same thing, that it's incredibly important. And as you grow, it's important to update it as you grow to make sure everything is factored in. Right. I mean, that's one of the things, like right now, I did an estate plan. Probably it's probably about 2 years old, but I remember thinking that the person
Your
who did my,
audio.
can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. I remember thinking that the person who did my estate plan, maybe they didn't understand my business the way they needed to understand it. And now more than ever, I'm like, okay, I need to get it updated with a person who totally understands the business and all that goes along with it. So very important.
Priscilla, did you have anything to add?
No, I agree with both of them. That it's, important to do estate planning, and, like even when, you hear a lot of people talk about trust, but there are different types of trust. So just know when you're doing it for your business, for your personal, that you have someone qualified consulting you on it. So you're making the right moves to protect your family and your business.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So what I would like each of you to do is to go around, give the name of your business and your contact points as we look to close out.
Awesome. I am Diedre Windsor. My company is Windsor Group LLC. Both myself and Windsor Group LLC are on LinkedIn, and you can hit me out there.
And I'm Kelly Mitchell, and I'm with ImpactHR. We're a full-service consulting and advisory firm, and we're also out on LinkedIn and you can find us at ImpactHR.
Hi, I'm Priscilla Clarke, President and CEO of Clarke PR Global, and I'm honored to be here today with these amazing women. And thank you, Jan Adams and your team, for putting this together for us to inspire others. And I can be found at LinkedIn at personally Priscilla Clarke, and professionally at Clarke PR Global.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay, I'll pick up from here. Hello, everyone. I'm Ava Stiller Bullock. I am the Senior Vice President and COO here at JMA Solutions. And I would like to close us out. And I would have to say, ladies, you were awesome. You really gave us great pointers on what to do, how to do, and some of the pitfalls that you went into. So when I think about the theme this year, leading the change, women shaping sustainable future, that's not just a theme. That's a testimony. Every woman in this room has done something that someone can or is still benefiting from. A decision made, a door held open, a lesson passed down. Sustainability isn't just about the planet, it's about people.
Yes.
It's about building something that outlasts the moment that you are standing in.
Mm-hmm.
So as we close, remember this: the way we sustain for the future is by investing in each other, building relationships, opening doors, and reaching back to mentor and lift a woman as you move forward. So thank you all for giving up your time and your talents. And we look forward to another opportunity to have women of power representing this Women History Month. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, it has. Bye, ladies.